Phones. That's what I'm expecting. I think he put the suit away, and I'm sure he's gonna pick it back up one day, but not tonight.
All right, well, we're gonna have to see suited or unsuited. Maybe her suit. In the upper right, in the red, he's playing for Basilisk. It's Reynor.
And in the bottom left side, I would safely say the biggest surprise so far of the European Spring Regionals. We are looking at the main base of our Croatian Protoss, representing the Platinum Heroes. It's Goblin. We've already seen Reynor play a couple of ZVPs from Korea. These games, of course, played on the European server, and he was very aggressive in those, and that's not surprising, right? He played against Harstem in the group stage. He won, got the best of him with a Nidus as well, Nidus a Link Flood. And I am expecting Reynor to definitely be very aggressive, but that doesn't mean that it's easy for Goblin to prepare for this, because it can be early aggression, it can be slightly later with a very low drone count, it can be the medium drone counts, or Reynor could just try to be a greedy boy, accept that he's going to lose a couple of drones to Adepts and Oracles, rush up to like 80 something, and from there on out full send it, never look back, and only go pedal to the metal. Like it's really not that easy for Goblin to get ready for a series like this. You know there is something coming your way, but you don't know when, and you definitely don't know what.
Yeah, it's also really interesting talking about Crimson Court in particular as we take a look at this map. That forward third base that we see a lot of Zerg players take, whether it's their third, their fourth, the base with the rich gas base that has this low ground directly below it, it's extremely pushable by a Protoss. In fact, it's one of the reasons that we're seeing two base all-ins become much more popular on this map, because you have that choke, you have that ramp, you can push up into it, it becomes very hard for a Zerg player to properly defend. So that's another question. It's like, yeah, how aggressive is Reynor going to play? But on the flip side, how aggressive does Goblin choose to play on this map in particular? Because it is so good for those single robo, double robo, two and a half base type of timings that we've been really seeing so consistently. Well, for this game, we're not going to see that. There's a Stargate on the way, and we're actually getting... Okay, there we go. I was going to say Warp Gate. Like, we're kind of getting past the point where you would expect to see Warp Gate even with a Stargate opener, but okay. Reynor, aggressive third.
Yep, so Reynor is probably going to try to get his hands on that rich Vespian Geyser early, and then maybe he's just gearing up for a massive Queen Roach Ravager Ling attack. Goblin, I think, is most likely just going to mine out his gold minerals and goes up to 3 bases at that 9 o'clock position. Oracles into Blink Stalkers with a Robo. That's what I'm expecting out of Goblin. I think he's pretty confident in his ability to hold a lot of different forms of Zerg aggression with that. On top of that, like, he just got a lot better with Oracles over the years. He got a lot better with the Blink Stalkers. There was a day and age where Goblin was a bit of a funky Protoss, and he had his own style, and he loved Mass Phoenix, he loved going into carriers, and he would just sit there forever. But that's really not the Goblin of 2024 anymore. This Goblin is confident that he can play in a very similar way to a lot of the other Protoss players, as he lets that Shake finish up into the natural. Gets 2 drones. I don't think Reynor is going to be too upset with that. Only 2 drones for 2 Adepts. You'll take that as a Zerg.
No, that's kind of the standard, right? You know, any more than that, the Protoss is really happy. Any less than that, the Zerg's really happy. But 2 drones for 2 Adepts, I think we'd argue just in general that is not really worth it for the Protoss player for multiple reasons. Now, an Adept Oracle's going to try to dive in, gets 2 more workers here, but with the Queens on top, you're not really going to get much more than that. But even still, Ronnie, getting 2 workers, not taking that much hull damage for your first Oracle, even before you have the double tap right, you start to get a lot of damage done. That's not bad. Now, talking about this setup from Reynor, I've learned a new word watching the GSL today. Apparently, this style of I'm just not building spores because, well, we just need to make sure that we're okay. Apparently, that is the Polish Gambit. Unfortunately, the Polish Gambit is not really working out for Reynor all that well in this series thus far.
I think it's still okay-ish, especially because Goblin hasn't seen Reynor working on those rocks yet. That's actually important for Goblin to pick up on. Otherwise, he's going to have to worry about units running on top of his third base a lot quicker than I think he was anticipating. It's crazy that he hasn't seen this yet. He should see this now. There you go. It's the 3rd Oracle that's actually going to pick up on this. And this has to be a little bit scary because you're like, uh-oh, he already took out 1,500 HP of those rocks. And that means that if it is going to be some sort of a Queen March, whether it's Queens and Lynx, maybe with Banelings, or there's Queens, Lynx, Roaches, but we haven't seen a Roach one yet. That is definitely something that you have to keep in the back of your mind if you're a Protoss. Reynor does fire up a lair, by the way. We still see some Zergs just fully commit to a hatchery tech all-in. I think that's so risky, because what if a Protoss player just drops an early Dark Shrine, then DTs slice up all your queens and it's all over. As Goblin, by the way, ends up losing an Oracle and is very close to losing a second Oracle. Woo. Playing a dangerous game.
As well, those drones, they desperately, they're like, we're gonna kill these oracles. We can desperately attack. They can't attack up. But even still, yes, losing 4 more drones doesn't really spark a lot of joy, but getting an oracle, almost killing a second, does. So Reynor behind
Hydra
this.
Ling Bane, maybe? Hydra Ling Bane all in? Is that something that Reynor could go for?
I mean, you hear him talk casting the GSL today, Roddy. He spent the entire time in the PVZs talking about how he doesn't believe in Banes. So Hydra Ling, sure, I'll buy that one maybe. Hydra Ling Bane, you know.
I think he doesn't believe in the Banes once Storm is out, once there are a bunch of Oracles and Immortals, but Banelings are kind of crucial in some all-ins to blow up cannons and batteries. Because Hydras and Lings and even Queens just don't take out static defenses very well. So even if you have slow Banelings, it's still nice to have a bit of that burst damage to gun down some of these static defenses of the Protoss.
Well, if that's the case, this is somewhat of a slim timing. Templar Archives, they're on the way. We're going to have Storm, I assume, get started pretty quickly behind this. And Goblin, MaxPax has shown us the way in terms of how you defend a lot of these early timings. And Crimson Court is a pretty good map to try to make that defense happen. It's like, yes, the Zerg can attack from multiple angles. Sure, fine. But you got to get the rocks down. And the Protoss players should know where that's coming from. They have these wonderful chokes to fight through. But look at this. At least there are going to be some queens coming with us, I'm assuming. We got 2 Overlord Dropper Lords getting ready on the map. Is this for, I mean, there's no Baneling Nest on the way, so this is just going to be Hydra Link taking a page out of Mio Micah's book. There's got to be queens into the Dropper Lords. Is the without the Banelings, Roddy, how do you feel about this?
Yeah, we will see. I mean, so far Goblin did not build any cannons, so I guess as long as there are no cannons, maybe, well, there's a single cannon, I guess, but as long as there are not too many cannons, then maybe Banelings are not mandatory. Reynor is incredibly committed here. He's going to start working on these rocks. Stasis Trappies will go down. It is 84 army supply on the side of the Italian Stallion, 50 army supply on the side of Goblin. But Goblin is just counting down the seconds until he can drop some storms. I do like the double link drop in the main. That can actually make it very difficult for Goblin to pay attention to the natural, the third, and the main at the same time. Maybe Goblin needs to split the Oracles back, right? And maybe Oracles and just a couple of links. Couple of Zealots could be good enough, but this is definitely not an easy defense for Goblin. It's already getting very hectic.
It is, and now it's just really attempting to bend, not break for Goblin at the time being. He needs Storm. Storm goes down, this fight becomes a lot easier. Reynor has killed 22 probes even before this. And hey, Queens have walked across as well, so there's creep that you can retreat to. There's transfuses that you can find. And this also means, of course, reinforcements that much quicker. Reynor has this carpet just about the entire way side of the map. Lings, Hydras can get that much closer. And yeah, +2 is going to be done soon. Storm's there, and that Storm's just a little bit better. But for now, I mean, Roddy, the Storms have not been particularly good. And with 32 dead probes, Goblin, he's got to make something happen here. And the Storms, there are none left. The Archon's on the way. It's going to get targeted down almost before it's ready to complete. This is not looking good for Goblin in game 1.
Nope, here are the Queens as well. We are seconds away from +2 ground weapons finishing up, but I am afraid for Goblin it is just a little bit too late. As Reynor has battled his way through all the batteries. We've got Hydras in the back of the Natural as well. -47 probes. No shields anymore on this Nexus. I mean, Reynor was incredibly committed. Earlier, I thought maybe if Goblin can just hold on like 45 workers, and he has a couple of Immortals and Storm, he's absolutely still in it. Now he doesn't have any High Templars anymore, and it's just going to be really hard, because these are the kind of fights where the Hydra can absolutely shine.
Yeah, those initial Storms are just the key to holding this. You get good Storms, you probably win. You don't get good Storms, likely dead. And yes, there are 4 more High Templar here, and they're getting pretty close to Storm. I don't know quite how much energy they have. What are we at? 79. So they got Storms now available. Hydras are going to have to split up against this, but Reynor is building clumps and then he's pre-splitting them. Because again, he's on high ping, but if you give an opportunity to get a Storm drop and immediately split against it, you're going to be fine. Reynor does that. Game 1 from Korea goes the way of our GSL caster.
Yep, the Hydra Ling Queen attack of 60-something workers with a very rich Vespian geyser as well. Insanely good multitasking, obviously, by Reynor, sending that one Dropper Lord into the main base, the other one into the back of the Natural. I think he picked off one of the batteries or cannons very quickly with just a couple Hydras that were on the right side of the natural. Just made it really difficult for Goblin to figure out where should Goblin look? Where should Goblin micro? What should he pay attention to? I do still think, though, that it's a big missed opportunity that Goblin did not invest in a couple cannons. You know Reynor is playing from Korea. He has already been very aggressive in the majority of the ZVPs. We've seen him play from Korea on the European server. I find it a bit surprising that he does not believe in the cannon then, because cannons are really awesome against Lynx and Hydras. That's where they can buffer, shield batteries can heal up the cannons, and then Stalker numbers can grow, or the High Templars can just sit there and gather enough energy for him. So great job by Reynor. Perhaps a missed opportunity for Goblin to be a tiny bit more ready for that, but I guess he thought of a lot of things, but not of the 16 link drop.
Yeah, it's, you know, we talked about Reynor being in Korea, right? And all the challenges that provokes. Of course, he's going to play in the GSL next Thursday. That's very exciting. We're going to get to take a look at that. But the other benefit, Roddy, he's closer to Mia Micah. You know, he is he's on the same time zone or close enough as our king of SEA, the king of the Hydra Ling. And, you know, game one, it worked out.
He's also a lot closer to all the Korean Zergs who have always believed in a lot of aggression against Protoss. So maybe it's the Korean Zerg versus Protoss rubbing off on Reynor a little here too.
I think if the Korean is EVP, that we'd have Bailings involved. So I choose to believe that this is just Mia Micah saying, look, Katowice 2 years ago, he successfully proselytized. He convinced Lambo for a day that Hydras were not horrible units. And if anyone can convince Lambo that Hydras aren't just the worst thing ever, well, that's already a victory. Anyways, we're going to get into game two. And in the upper left, in the red, he's up one. He's playing for Basilisk, the Hydralings. They do more than enough on Crimson Court. His name is Reynor.
And in the bottom right side of Oceanborn, we are looking at the main base of our Croatian Protoss. It's already been a fantastic season for him, but he probably looks at this best of 5 and says, you know what? This could be my day. I could prolong this run and go at least a little deeper in the ESL Masters Spring Regionals. Our Croatian Protoss, Platinum, Heroes, Goblin. Goblin will probably look back at a few moments in that game, losing an Oracle. Never good against a Zerg that is most likely going to be aggressive, right? Because we've seen Oracle shine like no tomorrow when you know certain waves of aggression are coming. Imagine if he had that one Oracle left over. He splits it back off to the main, activates Pulsar Beam, 8 links. It's only not that scary anymore. And I also think he'll be kicking himself a tiny bit for those first 2 adepts and look back at it and say, yeah, I should have done a little more with that. It shouldn't be that easy for a Reynor who's playing from Korea to kill my first 2 adepts like that.
Yeah, I think that's fair. I was looking at that fight, and while it didn't work out for Goblin, you know, the multitasking from Reynor was fantastic, and that wrinkle of having 2 Dropper Lords, 8 lings in each, into mineral lines is not something we really see with this type of all-in all that often. But I was even still, I'm like, look, there's stasis traps at the front. They caught a lot of lings early. Storm's going to be ready in time. And even with the Oracle going down, and even with everything else, it was looking to me like something I kind of expected Goblin to hold, or at least have a really good shot at holding. But those lings, those dang lings, you know, if they get into a spot, all of a sudden, chaos happens and Reynor can find an opening. So I guess if I'm Goblin, the one thing I'm looking to maybe do a little bit different there, obviously you don't want to lose Oracles or take tons of damage to Oracles, but is just kind of be more aware of this second level of shenanigans that Reynor's throwing. Because again, if that's just a straight up attack, I think Goblin's still in a pretty good spot to hold.
Yeah, if all of the units come via the rocks at the third, or all of the units try to make their way through the natural, I do think that Goblin can hold, yeah, because then we're going to see a well-timed overcharge, some great stasis traps, but it's never going to be that easy, right? These are the playoffs for a reason, BO, and I think Goblin also knows that it's never going to be easy. Let's this shade finish up too. Even though you already saw the 4 links, he's going to take a lot of damage on this adept. I don't think he's going to lose it. Maybe could have gone for a drone there. In the end, changes his mind, goes for the links, loses the adept. Not a great start, because 1 adept at a time is just so much less intimidating than 2 adepts together, because those one-shot Zerglings, those one-shot drones. Goblin is off to a really bad start here, BO. -2 adepts, for just a couple Zerglings. Not what he's looking for at all.
Yeah, you know, Roddy, I was gonna say, you know, if one adept doesn't do nearly as much as two, what about 0 adepts? How much damage do they do? I think the answer is nothing. Anyways, so Ling's on the other side of the map as well here. Losing those adepts means, of course, you have no way to defend the pro, but Oracle's gonna have to make that happen, which means that Goblin, generally, you'd want to go drop your third base right around this time, 330. But instead, he's going up to 3 gateways very quickly off the Stargate here, Roddy. You have something in mind. Is there some wrinkle here?
I wouldn't know what. I don't think there really is any attack you can make with just a couple of oracles and a couple of gateway units. Perhaps he was worried about the Reynor doing something very cheeky, mega aggressive, and he felt that he needed those 2 extra gates early on to potentially wipe in a sentry. We know, because we have the production tab and we see everything, that was not the case. Goblin cannot know that. Maybe that's why he also lost the second adept, because he just wanted to stick around a little bit longer. Reynor is firing up 10 more links here, by the way. Maybe he is worried about like 4 extra adepts shading to the other side of the map. That's also not happening. Yeah, a really rough start for Goblin, man. Like losing 2 adepts like that against just a slow Zerglings, it is just no bueno on this level. And 2 is an incredibly brutal game at the highest level. He is also going to regret that. If he already regretted the adepts on Crimson Court, he's going to hate what he did with the first 2 adepts here, because that didn't look like much. And I also felt it was kind of predictable, no? When he let that first adept shade finish, we're like, you're shading on top of 4 links on creep. What are we hoping for here?
Yeah, I like how Reynor just holds the link back a little bit on this left side as well, or in the third base as well. It's like, yeah, go complete the shit. I'm going to go kill everything. Unfortunately for him, Goblin's not going to rise to that bait. But you talk about predictable things. Reynor's doing something pretty predictable here. At least I think it's predictable. We're going to have to see. But the Roach Warren's done. Certainly +1's on the way. But we've been seeing a lot of Roach Hydra timings. Trying to attack into the third base, trying to attack into the fourth base here on Oceanborn. Gonna have to see if that's exactly what Reynor wants to do. A high layer is done. This might just be for just some Roach Ravager face smash. But, you know, for now, again, with those adepts, Goblin's committed warp-ins, he's committed production, he's committed money to things that aren't really going to help him all that long. But behind this, Robo's on the way, +1 blink. But with how things are just slowed down just a little bit, Reynor really hasn't taken much damage. You know, is he going to be ready for whatever massive attack Reynor wants to hit in 3 minutes?
I think this is the first time that Reynor has played any game in this season of the ESL Masters where he has not lost a single drone in the first 6 minutes. Because that's just so difficult for him, right? Like when there are units shooting at your drones, where normally you can morph a drone into a spore crawler and an extractor at the last second, he will now not have that possibility. So almost every single game we've seen so far, he loses worker here, loses worker there, or he's going to lose workers against the first real attempt of his opponent. It is crazy that in the first 7 minutes, with all those adepts and with all these oracles out on the map, Goblin has not been able to find a single drone yet. You look at this game, you would almost forget that Reynor is playing from Korea, because this is the Reynor that we normally see. And I am afraid for Goblin, man, that he is going to have to overcome a 50 or so army supply deficit, which maybe is not impossible, as Reynor actually fires up the hive after the infestation pit already finished up, and the Hydra then, so maybe Roach Ravager into Lurkers, that's a possibility too. Surprised to see Reynor is willing to play Lurkers here, but I kind of like it, Bio.
Yeah, you know, I really thought this was going to be... I even saw that, you know, he saw a quick infestation pit. I'm like, oh, okay, this might be Roach Ravager Swarm Host. I don't hate that, you know, against this very gateway heavy style. You got to be careful of storms, certainly, but maybe that's viable. But no, Reynor, he's just leapfrogging everything. He says, okay, well, Goblin, you're going to play to 4 bases. You're playing Crown Toss. Crown Toss is very good right now. But I'm just going to get a bunch of lurkers very quickly. I'm going to have this Roach Hydra Lurker Ling composition. I'm going to try to really lean into your 4th base, and I'm going to do what I can to make this happen before you're at 5, 6 Immortals, a bunch of Archons, you know, like this critical mass of Protoss stuff. So he's going to poke around, and he just gets the 4th base for mostly, yeah, a couple Lings go down. He gets the 4th base for free. Nice multitasking there from Reynor.
Yep, shows the army on the right and then actually hits with the Zerglings at the bottom. Forces Goblin to respect all those roaches, but Reynor had no plans at all of committing with those roaches. He just wanted to slow Goblin down even further in this game, as I don't think that these 8 Lings are going to accomplish a whole lot in that specific natural BO. Reynor's got to be loving life, going up to Lurkers, 90 drones. still has not lost a single drone. Is gonna get back-to-back cancels on the fourth base, make it a kill this time around. It didn't even get cancelled. So perhaps that's what the Dropper just accomplished. We didn't see it coming, BO, but those 8 lings in the natural just killed the fourth base.
That's really impressive. I didn't know teleporting lings. No, but I get what you're saying. So Oracles are going to try to dive in. Maybe finally Reynor loses a drone or not. Never mind.
His Goblin, his Pulsar Beam button not working this game. We're 9 minutes in.
Yeah, this really feels like Goblin's the one playing on 250 milliseconds right now, and Reynor's the one that's playing on his, which is not true, by the way. We're playing on Europe, but this very much feels like Reynor's the one that's playing on home server. Don't know how it's going to work, but for now, he's got his 5th base on done, 6th base on the way, Lurker starting to morph in, Lurker range and Hydra range and +2 and Adrenal and all of these things. Reynor's about to hit a very powerful timing with this army, and look at what he's doing. Roaches, bottom left side, they want to cancel this 4th base once again. And you got to be a little careful with these lurkers here, right? They're very good, certainly, but if they're all exposed, they can get jumped upon. They can get taken down. So Reynor splits the lurkers up a little bit. Storm is decent. The lings are going to go down, but the problem is, again, this 4th base. Yeah, there's static defense. Yeah, there is a second pylon, but this static defense will be mostly dealt with here. I think this 4th base goes down for a 3rd time, Roddy, and the roaches, even if some of them die, Reynor's fine with that. He'll replace it with lings and lurkers and ravagers or lings and lurkers and all of these far more impactful units. How is Reynor's playing so well? The roaches are still here. They're going to get a 4th cancel on this 4th.
Yep, that is going to be another cancel, or will it be a kill? No, but it is a cancel this time around. I would say indeed this is by far and away the best game we've seen Reynor play so far in the entire season of the ESL Spring Masters. He's looking sharp. He's looking impressive. Perhaps he should cast GSL more often in the morning because he's an absolute animal that's unleashed. He's maxed out. He's got all the upgrades. Earlier, he did not have the Lurker speed upgrade yet, the adaptive talents, but that one is down too now, and Goblin is just not able to go up to 4 bases. Now, there is still a tiny chance that Immortals live up to their name once more and that they just never die and that Lurkers cannot get the job done. But if the Lurkers don't win this game, BO, I just feel that the Lurkers are never going to win a game anymore.
Yeah, lurkers are an interesting unit. Oh man, immortals are just a lot of their guardian shield, their heart and shield just been popped. I mean, even still, you talk about immortals being very good, Roddy. That's a lot of lurkers going down very quickly. But at the end of the day, it doesn't really matter. Yeah, well, Reynor's probably traded worse. 10,000 to 9.
It starts mattering if Reynor keeps doing that, right? That was definitely an expensive one. Reynor does get another cancel on the 4th base, like the 5th cancel or something that he's got in the last few minutes, so that's incredibly good. Reynor is very rich. He does need to be a tiny bit careful because at one point Goblin can max out. And if Goblin then just never loses a unit, Reynor is still going to have a problem, because it's not like we have a great Aspire or anything, but I believe that if they fight in the near future where Reynor's got 13 Lurkers, he's got a crazy amount of Zerglings as well, he should be fine, as he's splitting off 2 Lurkers, by the way, and he's going to jump on top of this army in the center. Here come all those Lings. The Storms may obliterate the Lings, but that still allows the Hydras and Lurkers to get a lot of shots up. And I would say that that is fine for Reynor. His Lurkers at the bottom side did get cleaned up. So this time around, no cancel yet on that 4th base. And Goblin's army is still an army that we have to respect.
Yeah, if Goblin can go and get that 4th base up properly and develop his economy, because the main base is going to mine out soon. The natural is going to mine out pretty soon. That's a problem. If Goblin can get his 4th base up and running, he does have a way back into this game. But again, is he going to be able to make that happen? Now, you're talking about maxing out here for Goblin. He's sitting here on 10 Immortals, going up to 12, but the Lings surround on top of everything. There are no Storms to cover this. So even though they're only +1, they got cracked. They're cracklings. They're effectively +3, +4 Lings, and they kill off a couple of the Immortals. Now, Reynor trying to attack in here. Guardian Shield or Hardened Shield popped on some. 4 or 5 Storms available from the High Templar. Reynor splits against them for now. But you really have to knock the detection down. And with the Oracles there, you can't really do that. So Reynor, he's playing on the edge, certainly.
So many Lurkers.
So many Lurkers.
Still 12 of them, and now all the Archons have disappeared. And this is where Zerglings and Hydras actually become incredibly important. And it's not all about the Lurkers anymore. It's about those Hydras and Lings, keeping those Immortals at bay. And that's when the Immortals can do their thing. A few Zealots are not going to save Goblin here. The final Immortals are not going to save Goblin. And I would say that Reynor has just played his best game so far from Korea in the ESL Masters. His does look incredibly impressive. 13 minutes and 35 seconds against a triple Oracle opening and adapts. Reynor lost 0 drones in that entire game. Wow.
Yeah, you know, it's funny. You talk about Reynor, he needs to cast the GSL more often because he's going to be good, right? TY, in his first season casting the GSL, won the GSL. There is a buff here, guys. This is not just, you know, us idly talking about it. There is a very clear buff between casting the GSL and all of a sudden doing just incredible. It's like the retirement buff or the wife buff. It exists in StarCraft, and I couldn't tell you quite why. But Reynor playing so very well in that game. But we now move to a map that is maybe a little bit weirder, right? It's Ghost River, natural to natural, pretty close. It's not quite as weird as it might be on a PvP, certainly. But when you're looking at things here, I kind of feel like we might see some Overlord drop type of stuff, again, with how much little dead airspace there is. This feels like it's another map where Reynor, we're going to see him get more aggressive than, say, Oceanborn.
Yeah, there's also a chance Goblin is going to be pretty aggressive. I know that the Korean Protoss players find a lot of success with opening up a Stargate, Oracle, a couple of adapts, and they followed up with Blinkstalker. They just build a pylon and a gateway in the center of the map, and they just keep on attacking the Zerg. And as a Zerg, that's very awkward because you never have the overwhelming amount of units where you can fight off creep. But you also don't enjoy this being pushed back into your own third base forever, up to the point where you're forced to take fights on the edge of creep, and then stalkers just bring back all day, every day. So perhaps we have something very special. Let's go ahead and hop into it. No fake news this time around. This one is truly a tiny bit cheeky and unique, as this man who has taken the 2-0 lead in this series is opening up with a 12 pull, and he's sending out a drone to the other side of the map. Representing Basilisk, one map away of making it into the top 8 while playing from Korea. This is Reynor.
And his opponent hoping to try to scout out what's happening, get some idea. And for now, all he sees is an empty natural. He's down 2. It's Goblin.
I think Reynor is going to build a hatch in the wall of Goblin to prevent the wall off and let the 12 pool just get in.
That's, you know, I thought for a second we might see this go and like proxy spine, something like that. But yeah, I'll believe just the hatch in the wall type scenario. Although he is being very reticent here with this probe. It's sitting there, it's, you know, it's patrolling, but he's not really all that interested in diving in. And can he block anything? You know, he's just gonna block the hatch. Okay.
All right. Well, let's see how this is gonna go. Reynor goes for a hatch on location in the natural of Goblin as he goes for the 12 pull. Goblin did not go for a second gateway. He's just gonna go for a single gate. Is pulling probes. A lot of probes working on this hatchery. He's very worried about it. First Zealot comes out. I guess he really does not want to move that Zealot away from the choke point because he doesn't want to have to deal with a bunch of Zerglings running into his natural. So it's just the probes taking care of the hatch for now, and then the Zealot is holding down the wall. Reynor does not cancel the hatch. Maybe that's a little bit of that thing. Reynor trying to go for a last-minute cancel. Does not manage to cancel and loses 350 minerals then in total. And that's painful. 300 for the hatch, 50 for the drone. The 12 pool is not going anywhere. Is going to re-expand at home. But where game 2 was by far and away the best start that I think Reynor's had in any game in the ESL Masters, I'd say this is a very, very bad one so far, Bio.
Oh, Lings are going to find their way in, though. It's only 4 Lings.
The Adept is almost out.
Yeah, I don't think this gets a lot done. It's, you know, it's annoying, certainly. But if you pull probes and you're on top of your micro, which Goblin seems to be for the time being, 4 Lings do not. They deny mining a little bit. That's kind of what they do. So, yeah, how do you find your way back into this? I mean, probes were pulled a little bit far. There's still plenty of Lings on the map. He's got to surround notionally on the Cybercore, but not all that much. How do you work your way back into this game if you're Reynor? Because this is certainly something where Goblin's uncomfortable. You know, his natural was delayed quite a bit. He doesn't have a warp gate on the way. There's no Stargate either. But, I mean, he's certainly in a much better spot. Like, how do you work your way back into the game if you're Reynor?
Good question. I mean, he's gasless for now, so I'm sure that he's hoping Goblin is going to go for more of those Oceanborn Adept shades, where he just kind of donated them. But if Goblin plays this properly, like we know that he's capable of, he can get so much value out of these first 2 Adepts. These Zerglings don't have speed, will not have speed for a very long time. He's got 2 adepts, but he leaves 1 at home. Instead of leaving a zealot at home, he actually leaves 1 adept at home. I find it a tiny bit surprising. Reynor apparently was thinking of going up to 3 bases incredibly early, and that was going to be the great equalizer. But that is going to get denied by this adept double zealot move out. I don't know. This feels like a really bad game to play from the Zerg's point of view. What's the best move here, BO? Honestly, your guess is as good as mine. I don't know where you take this.
I think you just got to do something weird at this point. You're getting a third. Protoss has a third base on the way before the Zerg does. That's just. You want to know how bad this game feels? That's exactly how bad this game feels. Now, I gotta say, I'm a little surprised though. Goblin, he's going. Look, Roddy. I know he's your son. I know Roddy. I know Goblin loves his Stargate play, but in a game like this, going warp
I
gate
love it.
into, don't you just go for like a glaive timing and end the game?
Glaive timing could be sick, but then you could still walk into a scenario where they go gasless, wall off, roaches, hit you with something weird. I think Stargate is always fine, because oracles are quick. They're going to give Goblin the right information, knowing what he has to worry or not worry about, and he should always be able to find damage with these oracles, even if the queen count is pretty high at this point. We're looking at 4 queens. To me, oracles make perfect sense, because as long as nothing too weird happens, nothing happens that he's not aware of, he's always fine. If Reynor is all-in right now, you have a Stargate, you can make a Void Ray, you can make more oracles. I think it's a perfect choice. I like it a lot.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's fair. It's one of those scenarios where I think Goblin might have been able to go and just end the game, but why not get more ahead, right? You know, win ahead, get more ahead. Your third base is so far ahead of what Reynor has. Your economy is so far developed. Reynor's got +1 melee. Ling's on the way. He's got Ling speed on the way. And you know, actually, the other thing that a Stargate allows you to do here, if maybe the answer is for Reynor is to try to play some sort of asynchronous style where you don't play a bunch of ground units because you're too far behind, but you give yourself a little bit different of a win condition and you go Spire, you try to go into mutas or something. Not that bad for the map necessarily, but there's already a Stargate out, so Goblin can react. He's gonna blink soon, but he could also get a couple Phoenix out and be very okay there. But it looks like this game gonna be Ling Bane, Reynor. Not much more than that one.
Actually. I do like it what Reynor is doing here. We were thinking, right, what does Reynor do from the very uncomfortable, awkward position that he's in, where he's a 2-base Zerg and he doesn't have gas yet. So you delay the gases for a little while, then you fire up +1 melee Zergling speed at the same time, and you drop the Baneling Nest too. You can maybe go for a Queen March, right? Dark has found a lot of success in the past with just marching Lings, Banes, and Queens to the other side of the map, as the link count here is already pretty high. Goblin's going for Blink Stalkers. Those are only really good against Zerglings in high numbers. At the moment, those numbers are not that high yet for the Stalkers. I kind of like it for Reynor, but he does need to bring the queens, right? If we don't bring the queens, this is going to be hard. Unless he thinks that this is the right amount of Lings and Banes to just completely bust the third base. And that's only 1 battery, it's only 1 pylon, maybe. But oracles should help Goblin a lot here.
Well, it looks like the queens are starting to march. Well, Stalkers are stuck in the natural, a couple of them. And there are only 4 gateways available. So what you see for the most part is what you get here for Goblin. Banelings are going to try to run in. That pylon, yeah, it's just going to get targeted down. So no stag defense. Banelings crush everything. And yeah, there are oracles, absolutely. But this third base is dead. Between the +1 and everything else, Reynor, I think he's got to get more of this. Just getting the third base is a beautiful start, absolutely. But this is he's still going to be looking down the barrel of a +1 blink timing that does exist. Banelings are going to start to go down. Reynor wants to get more, but the queens, he seems satisfied with this. The queens are walking back home.
Yeah, as he did fire up the lair, right, and he's droning up a little bit to even the worker numbers. I mean, Reynor is going to be mining of 3 mineral lines. Goblin only off 2. I think Reynor is pretty happy with that, but in a perfect world, obviously, he would have been able to get a bunch of the workers too. If he gets the third base, the pylon, the battery, and the workers, he's loving life. Right now, he's probably thinking that was a victory, but I know that I'm still going to have to do a lot of additional things, right, to straight up win this game. Why not? With Hydra, Ling, Bane, Queen, starting to look a lot more promising for Reynor than it did 5 minutes ago.
Yeah, Goblin was in no way, shape, or he just didn't expect it whatsoever. So no SimCity at the third base means that just Banelings come crashing in, they annihilate everything. And yes, there are 4. I love this from Goblin. He's got 5. He's got 4 oracles done, 5 on the way. Reynor +1 Lings. They're going to get right on top of this. There's no shield battery here. It's not even done. There's just not enough to kill it. So the third base goes down. once again. And Roddy, getting a little deja vu. I know this isn't Oceanborn, but there's still water on the map. Ghost River, Oceanborn, kind of same deal. If Goblin can't get this third base up, it's not really going to matter what he does unless he kind of ends the game in the next 2 minutes.
Reynor has been making all the right choices, even from some very unfamiliar and uncomfortable spots, because I can guarantee you, Reynor has never 12-pulled and actually lost the first hatchery he built on the other side of the map. But he has still found a way to make this a more than playable game. The kind of game that he probably feels somewhat excited about at the moment. But we can't just celebrate too early if you're cheering for Reynor, because he still needs to worry about 21 stalkers with Blink. If he wants to attack of the 64 drones he's currently working with, he has to worry about a gazillion stasis traps, because Goblin's got 5 oracles out. He's working on oracle number 6. It is going to be hard, but yeah, if Reynor can just keep on either surrounding stalkers or keep on knocking down that nexus, he's more than in it. I am not sure if he's going to get it this time, though. I'd love to see those Lynx just go for it. We're going to have a big surround potentially in the center of the map as well. Goblin realizing that he's in a bit of an awkward spot, and losing the oracles would be very problematic for Goblin.
And you're talking about these oracles as well, Roddy. Not only, like, great, they're going to have stasis traps damage. The oracles are almost all out of energy. One of them has energy remaining. So, yeah, losing one doesn't feel all that great, but it's not like the oracles had a lot of energy to do anything anyways. And Hydra Ling against a bunch of Blink Stalkers technically is very good for the Hydra Ling. But Goblin, again, he's on that ping advantage, so he should be able to blink just a little bit better than Reynor can respond. He's gonna, every single time the Lings go in, he kills the Lings, backs up. It's not the easiest game for Reynor still to play, absolutely. But the composition, at least, is very good for what Reynor wants to do.
Goblin has vision of those rocks, by the way, but he's not looking at it yet. They have just been popped. There is only a single adept, by the way, so if that adept dies and Goblin does not warp in any units, it's going to be Lynx with +1 melee running into the main base and natural. That's awkward. At the same time, Reynor is jumping on top of the army of Goblin in the center of the map. And Goblin is definitely having a hard time keeping up here with all the craziness that Reynor is throwing at him. And in the natural, Hydras and Lynx are dancing, but in the third base, Goblin is safe. And I think as long as Goblin is safe there, he should eventually be able to clean up the rest.
It almost honestly doesn't feel like he even recalled enough. The Hydras and Lynx are still there causing damage. Stasis Trap doesn't really do all that much of anything. 9 probes go down. The wall's open here. The supply is starting to really go in Reynor's favor. Stasis Trap's going to go down. Reynor targets them down as they go. And Goblin gets 3-0'd by Reynor.
Reynor, who opened up with the 12